We've all been there, right? Stuck in teams where it feels like you spend more time dealing with friction than actually making progress. And what do? We blame the people, or the process, maybe a lack of resources. But what if the real problem is something deeper? An invisible playbook that we're all kind of forced to use.
So let's just start with a really fundamental question. To work together, to really work together well, do we all have to agree? It's an assumption that's so baked into how we think, we almost never even question it. But what if that assumption is the very thing that's holding us back?
Well, the thing is, our struggles with teamwork, a lot of the time, they come from this set of invisible, just outdated rules. These flawed assumptions about how people are supposed to coordinate. We're out here trying to solve today's super complex problems with a rulebook that is way past its expiration date.
Okay, so take a look here. On the left, you've got the usual suspects, our flawed assumptions. The idea that we need total agreement, that we need top-down control, that everyone has to think and act the same way. But the alternative over on the right, it's so much more powerful. We're talking about shared information, clear interfaces between teams, actual distributed autonomy, and a culture of constant feedback. This isn't just a small improvement, you guys. This is a complete game changer.
So what's the alternative then? Well, it starts with a shift in thinking. We have to stop seeing our organizations as these rigid, clunky machines and start thinking of them more like living systems. And to do that, you need a whole new operating system, a way to design our work that's somehow both structured and incredibly adaptive. And just to be clear, this isn't just another top-down governance model. No way. The source material calls this a living architecture for coherence. What does that mean? It's a system where the formal structure, the org chart, and the real relationships, how people actually work together, are perfectly aligned. They actually reinforce each other.
And that brings us right to the core concept here, the dual operating system. Think of it as a system of systems. It's designed to do two crucial things at the exact same time: create this rock-solid structural coherence and foster deep relational integrity. And if you can get both of those right, well, you start to embed some serious, scalable leverage right into your everyday work.
Okay, so let's break down that first pillar, structural integrity. The easiest way to think about this is like the skeleton of the organization. It's that essential framework that holds the whole thing together. But don't let that name fool you. Structural integrity doesn't mean being rigid. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's all about flexibility. It's the system's ability to spread out the workload, to maintain diverse points of view, and to adjust how tightly teams are connected to each other. This is how you get real strength without becoming fragile.
And the search material has this really powerful metaphor for this idea. It's called a tensegrity organization. Just like the structure you're looking at, it's held together by this incredible balance of tension and compression. What that does is it makes it super strong, but also lightweight and able to adapt its shape without breaking. It's like stability in motion.
So, a structure like this gives you three huge benefits. First, it's resilient. It can take a hit and bounce back. Second, it scales, which means you can grow without the whole thing collapsing. And third, and maybe most important, it adapts. It's constantly responding to whatever the environment throws at it.
Okay, but a strong structure? That's only half the story. The other piece of this dual system is just as critical, and it's all about the human element. This is what the source calls relational leverage, or, the power of connection. So what is relational leverage really? Well, put simply, it's the power of your networks and your relationships to amplify what your team can do. See, strong relationships, they lead to better coordination, and better coordination builds more capability, and that ultimately creates way more value.
And I absolutely love this next point because it just gets right to the heart of it. Building strong relationships isn't some sentimental, feel-good exercise. Nope. In this kind of system, it is a core strategic component. It's a structural requirement if you want high performance.
And you can see how this directly impacts performance, right? Strong relational leverage determines how efficiently your teams get stuff done, how fast information actually flows, how much friction you can remove from coordination, and even how new capabilities just sort of emerge from all those connections.
So you've got structural integrity on one side and relational leverage on the other. When you can actually align those two systems, that's when you get what's called coherence. And let me tell you, coherence creates a massive, undeniable advantage.
At the end of the day, coherence is a competitive advantage. It's pretty simple, really. When your organization's structure and all its relationships are aligned, you just waste less energy, you learn faster, and you adapt to challenges way better than your competitors.
So how do you put this into practice? It starts with a mindset shift. You start to see your organizational architecture as your actual strategy. You start treating the design of your workflows as the main driver of performance. And you use your entire structure, both the formal org chart and the informal relationships, as your #1 source of leverage.
And think about this for a second. In a coherent system, you don't have to stop working to go do some training. The work itself, the coordination, the feedback, the constant adapting, all of that becomes the training ground. Your team gets better just by doing their jobs, and that creates this really powerful, virtuous cycle of continuous improvement.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to take back to your own team. Think about those old rules we talked about at the beginning. The need for total agreement, for top-down control, for everyone to be the same. What is just one of those old rules that you and your team could challenge tomorrow?